Hello, good people! Mighty Mordugal here, the miniature minstrel, your friendly gnome bard. Okay, folks, welcome back. So it's been a little while since I made the previous videos in this series on the Children of Aule, that is to say, the rise of the dwarves in the First Age of Tolkien's Middle-earth. And so I wanted to highlight a couple of changes that have occurred since I created the previous videos. I'll be uploading all the videos at the same time, so you won't probably notice this until you actually go to watch the series. But anyways, since the last video in the series that I made, Paradox and Triumph actually released their first Age of Wonders 4 DLC pack, which is Dragon Dawn. Came out on the 20th of June. It added dragons as a third type of faction leader, in addition to the previous champions and wizard kings that you could choose from in the original game. And then the content pack also added the lizard folk as a new playable physical form to choose from when you're doing your faction creation. And then finally, Dragon Dawn also added a few new units, mostly related to dragons and wyverns. But also 2 new magic tomes that you can choose from. One that you can choose from pretty early on, which is the Tier 1 Tome of Evolution, and also a later tome, the Tier 3 Tome of Dragons, going with that Dragon Dawn theme pack. So far, my impressions of the DLC are quite good. I've played it a little bit. I enjoy it. If folks are sort of interested in a video on that, just let me know. Anyways, before getting into the game here, I also wanted to mention for the group that since Age of Wonders 4 has been out for a little while now, the modders have been very active in creating new content for the game, in addition to the official content. And so I'm actually currently running 10 mods on my version of AoW4 here. Most of them are cosmetic, but there's a few that add new units or tomes, and there's also one that alters how your faction leader and heroes level up. I'll have those listed in the video, all the mods that I'm using, once I post this. But in particular, I wanted to highlight a couple that I'm running, which I think are quite good. One is Character Class Culture Customization Unlocked, and that's by Epi and Comet. One is Culture-Based Tome Units by Agno Grande, and also Expanded Culture Units by Digger at Arms. Those 3 things really expand the customization options for your faction, and in particular improve the immersion, because they sort of rework some of the original units for the tome units into sort of more culturally oriented faction sort of units, and also expand a number of units that are available to you in the game for each of the different cultures. And then the final one that I want to highlight that I have, or 2 actually, that I have loaded are by the same modder, and that's Eric DB, and the mods are Age of Colors and Age of Tomes. These add more banner colors, and also 6 new tomes, which are pretty interesting. Okay, so without further ado, let's get back into Arda Under the Stars. So just a quick recap. In the 3 previous videos, we created the realm of Arda from Tolkien's Legendarium, from the First Age of Middle-earth. Just quickly going over the various traits again. We've added Highlands, Wildlands, no free cities, lightless, mega cities, and crystalline abundance. Haven't changed any of the other things. I've got my factions all loaded here, so we're going to be playing as Durin the Deathless, as we mentioned in the previous videos. We've got all of our 7 Fathers of the Dwarves, and then we've got Melian the Maya and Melkor, who will also be in the game world for us to interact with. Game flow, again, is going to be on fast. That's just to keep things moving along. No changes to the combat stuff. You can alter this stuff if you want to, but in this case, we're going to keep it all kind of set as standard. Okay, So at this point, we'll go ahead and we'll kick it off. So it's going to load us up here. It's going to load us into Arda, under the stars. What we'll do in this first sort of gameplay video is I'll try and kind of orient those of you that maybe are new to Age of Wonders 4 or 4X games. I'll sort of try and orient you a little bit just to how the game is played. So it's sort of a tutorial, but a kind of a light tutorial. All right, here we go. Okay. Here we go, Durin the Deathless and his Longbeards. Okay, so this just tells you everything that you've started out with. It gives us all of our data about our faction. Shows our different affinities up here. Our starting tome, and then the various adaptations and things that we've given to our faction in the faction creation process. It shows us here what we're going to start with in terms of the starting magic. So we're going to get Mark of Vulnerability here, of Invulnerability, which you can see there on the left, and Bolstering Chant. These are going to make our forces a little bit tougher. Again, going with that theme that Durin and the Dwarves of Moria delved for Mithril and created mighty Mithril armor. So now the first thing I think we're going to do is, so this is our starting town. Now, right now it's named Breccia, but we're gonna actually change that, right? I mean, we've got to change this to Khazad-Dum, the appropriate name for the capital of the Longbeard Dwarven Empire. Okay, so as I said, this is your starting city. You can see all the different information up here. You've got different resources that you're going to be producing throughout the game. So food helps your city grow. Production, which is what allows you to build buildings and how quickly you can build them. Draft, how many units you can produce, how quickly. Gold, use that to purchase a bunch of units, and also for upkeep of those units. Mana is going to be used primarily to cast your spells and your enchantments and that sort of thing, but there are magic units that can be summoned in the game on spells that you can cast which require a mana upkeep. That is to say that you'll have to pay mana each turn. Knowledge, this is your effectively your research resource, and so it tells you how much you're gonna get each turn, and every spell that you research costs a certain amount. So obviously the more advanced spells, the late game spells that are more powerful are going to take longer to research in most cases, unless you're upgrading your city or faction benefits to increase the amount of knowledge that you gain and therefore decrease the amount of research time it takes. Imperium, kind of an important resource that's fairly unique because it's much harder to produce this in general. There's not many options to produce it, but it is important for city expanding to new cities, creating new cities. It's really important in negotiations with free cities and that sort of thing. And also, it is what you will use to do your research of your empire development, which is not yet available, but we'll get into that in a bit. Here's the size of your population. So generally speaking, the more population in your city, the better, because you're going to get more resources. But it will also become more difficult to keep them happy. And then the other thing that's important about population is that it's sort of it's a multiplier. So you're going to gain more resources from the more population that you have. And there are things in the game which will affect that, whether it's gaining population or losing population. But it's particularly important for when you want to expand and add new provinces, which is what these are here. So if I click, you can see that's a province, that's a province. It tells you a little bit about it. It tells you what kind of buildings, province improvements that you can build in there. But those won't become available until you reach certain thresholds. So in this case, it's telling us that we've got 3 turns until we are going to be able to expand our city a little bit. Here's your production queue. So this is the different buildings that you're going to be able to build throughout the game. It's going to do everything from increase your production to speed up how quickly you can produce units, increase your income both in gold and mana, and there's also special benefits that you'll get from other buildings later on in the game. If you happen to be running out of money, you can always select produce merchandise, which is what is on right now. And when you have nothing selected, it'll default to that. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to help you increase your gold if you don't have enough to build anything at that particular time. One other thing that I sort of missed up here, you've got your happiness up here. And really the bottom line is that your city stability, which is effectively the happiness of your cities, will affect your city income. And you can see down here how that sort of works. You'll get certain bonuses or detriments depending on the situation with your happiness. And then finally, we've got the ability to recruit units. So you've got a separate queue for buildings, separate queue for units. That's actually different from previous Age of Wonders games. But at any rate, for us, our initial 4 units that we can pick up are the Anvil Guard, which is shield unit, good defensive unit. We've got a ranged unit, the Arbalist. We've got our Scout. And this right here, Sapper, is a unit that is actually coming from one of the mods that I've got loaded right now. But it's pretty cool because basically you get a kind of a special Dwarven unit that's very culturally thematic, and they can throw basically blasting charges, which is kind of neat. Anyways, to get started, because we're in a low light environment and our view distance is not going to be great, we want to get a scout up and running. So we're gonna start producing a scout immediately, so we can start exploring a bit. And then in terms of the very first building, really up to you how you want to chart the course of your city. For us, I want to really kind of start getting our production up and running, and so I'm going to select workshop. All right. Okay, so that's city, and then just kind of orienting you to the rest here. So we've got research. So this is what I was talking about, the ability to research various spells. So in this case, well, every turn or every time you research a new research item, a new spell, you will get access to 3 more. If you hold it over it, it's going to tell you what it is and what it does. So this is magical wards, static shield, and summon phantasm warrior. So this is a summon spell, which will actually allow us to bring a unit onto the world map that will join our armies. Notably, I wanted to point out that this number here in the bottom right of each of these, this is the tier of the spell, right? And so generally speaking, the higher the tier, the more expensive it will be in terms of the amount of research required, right? So 5 and 5 versus 3 required to research these tier 3 versus tier 1 spells. If you don't like what you see here, you can spend mana to shuffle it, and it will give you new ones. If you want to read a little bit more about the different tomes, you can go in here and you can read about all the different tomes that you can get in the game. Alright, so for us to start out, I think I'm going to go with our minor race transformation here, the Tome of Warding. And so when we cast this spell, it's a faction-wide spell that will basically stay active so long as we can afford to pay the mana cost, right? And so the mana cost is basically going to be based on the number of units that you have, and each unit will cost a certain amount of upkeep. But what that's going to do for us is it's going to increase our resistances, right? And again, that's going with this theme that I wanted to play with here with Durin and the Dwarves of Moria, which is kind of that they create this mithril armor, which is particularly strong. Static Shield, this is a combat spell, which does very similar things in terms of bolstering our defenses. In this case, we would cast this on a unit and we would get a shield, which is going to have an opportunity to stun an enemy when they get attacked, which is pretty nice. But anyway, so we're gonna start with magical wards here. Okay, so you can see that's now researching up there. Okay, so a couple other things, your different kind of empire management options up here. Diplomatic overview, right? So this tells you how many different factions are in the game. We haven't discovered. We know who's in the game roughly, because obviously we've done the faction creation for this particular world. But in most games, you would have no idea what you would be up against, right? It would be randomly selected, generated rulers, or rulers that are going to be selected from custom rulers the devs have created, or your own custom rulers that you've created and added to your pantheon, which is a sort of kind of system that allows you to complete games and unlock content, and also save your rulers that you've created to a kind of a metaverse that they can then kind of pop into your games. So anyways, this is showing us our rankings. So this is the overall ranking. We've got military ranking, expansion, magic, and economy. No free cities. If you encounter them in a game, they'll show up here. Or if, you've heard that there is one, it will maybe show up in here, but you won't know who it is. And then right now we've only discovered one race, and that's us, and then we're the Longbeards. Okay, so this is your quest tracker, and sometimes throughout the game you'll get offered quests by visiting locations, or kind of randomly it'll pop up as part of your faction. And quests will basically show up under here. Now, right now, the only things that are showing are victory conditions, right? And in here, it'll tell you what you need to do to achieve this victory condition, which ultimately is the goal of the game. A couple different options for that here. And then we'll go to the hero overview. So right now, we've only got one, and that's our faction leader. That's Durin right here. So if we select him, it'll tell us a little bit about him. It allows us to inspect him, so we can see what he's got in terms of equipment and all that good stuff. Gives us all of his different kind of abilities and that sort of thing. And oh, by the way, at any time in the game, you can hop in here and you can just change how your heroes and faction leaders look, however you want. Really, really amazing customization options, as I've mentioned before, throughout the game. So in the case of Durin here, a couple of hints, right? He's going to get, because of the race trait adaptable, he's going to gain experience faster. Anytime he gets hit, he's going to get a kind of defensive buff. His defense mode is quite good. It's going to give him additional defense and resistance. Unfortunately, his vision is reduced by 3, and that's because of the condition that we have set on this world, which is lightless, because again, this is Arda under the stars. He's also quite resilient, which means he gets that +3 status resistance, and that came from our faction traits. Okay, so magic materials. So we'll discover these throughout the game. And they'll give you different bonuses, right? So if we're looking at this one, Archon Blood, okay, this is going to give you a global effect. That's to say it's going to affect the entire map. Anywhere you fight, it's going to give you combat casting points. So there's two types of casting points in the game. You've got combat casting points, which you use in battles, and then you have world map casting points, which is what you use on what we have right here in front of us, which is the world map to cast spells there. Anyways, with regard to your magic materials, whenever you've collected all 3 of a certain type, right? So in this case, these different kind of physical ores, and in this one there's different types of liquid, right? In this one are different types of kind of plants, right? If you collect all of them, you're going to get this special effect, right? Which is going to affect basically everything in your empire, right? So these can be actually really, really useful, and you can either capture these by defeating armies that are on them, kind of defending them, neutral armies, that sort of thing, or sort of conquering enemy cities that have these resources, or you can also trade for these. You can trade for them either with other major factions in the game, or if we had free cities on in this game, you would be able to trade with those free cities for those materials as well. Anyway, so that's magic materials. A lot of cool bonuses you can get from that. Okay, once you have multiple cities, that's going to show up in here, right? So right now we've just got Khazad-Dum. Tells you what your different production is, what you're producing, right? So this is good for comparing, like if maybe you've got an underperforming city and you want to vassalize it or something like that to get rid of it so that you're not kind of managing it yourself, or to see kind of, hey, what's my most important city that I need to protect? And then finally, armies. Again, right now we've only got 2. So we've got 1 scout right now, and then we've got Durin's army right here. Shows you what's in there, and that is this army right here. Rally of Lieges, we'll get to that later once it becomes available, but that's another mechanic, and also Empire Development, we'll hit that in a little bit as well. Okay, so showing you how much knowledge you're getting a turn. Here's how much Imperium that you're getting a turn, which will affect what you can buy in the Empire Development. And then you have Whispering Stones. Now, Whispering Stones, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, is sort of a diplomatic tool. I feel like the inspiration for these was probably like the Palantir from the Lord of the Rings, because the whole idea is it's supposedly a kind of a mechanism for communication with factions, right? Which is exactly what the Palantir are. So kind of nice nod to Tolkien here in my view. Like that a lot. We'll not have any free cities immediately, so we won't be able to use these. But potentially, if we were to play another game where we did have free cities, we would be able to use those more effectively. Right now, I can only have a maximum of 3 cities. It's showing me that I have 1, which is, of course, Khazad-Dum right there. This is something, this cap on the number of cities can be increased through specific traits that you acquire through Empire Development. And there's also one in there that allows you to kind of do it repeatedly at a much higher cost each time. Got your resources coming in at the top, overall gold, overall mana. Shows you the breakdown of where that stuff's coming from, overall world casting points. And then over here we've got our different affinities, right? And the affinities, these are based on the tomes that you have selected and your the culture that you've selected as well in the faction creation. And then the number and type of affinities that you have will change throughout the game as you unlock new spell tomes. So right now we've got Empire Affinity, or I'm sorry, Materium Affinity. We have Astral Affinity, and we've got Order Affinity. Now, one thing I want to point out about these, which is good to know, is that these are sort of like an alignment, if you will, for those of you that are the D&D players like myself, right? Each affinity is opposed by another affinity. So in this case, Materium is opposed by Astral Affinity, right? So any empire, that is to say a major faction, or a free city that is predominantly Astral Affinity will automatically not like us very much, or like us less than some other factions. And that affects diplomacy. If at any time you want to look up anything in the game, you can click on the information button up there in the top right corner and then look up all kinds of different stuff. Here's our mini-map, and if you want to see a bigger version of that mini-map, all we need to do is scroll out. And you can see we're playing on a really, really big map, and that's where we're starting right here. Okay, so what are we going to do with Durin here? So you're going to get notifications over here. So in this case, it's telling me that I've got units that need to do things. And so this is a Pioneer. It's a recon unit. It's really good at scouting. You can see all this different stuff here. It's got Farsight, which gives it +1 vision range. And because we are industrious culture, we get scout prospecting. So we can prospect a cliff, a mountain, or a stalagmite province, which will give us production in gold, or potentially a hero item in some cases. It's a ranged unit, but it's quite good for sort of, well, as the name implies, scouting. So it's going to be able to move quickly through mountains, for instance, regular land movement, but it also has expedited movement underground. And it is considered cavalry because it is mounted on, in this case, a pony. And there's different kinds of mounts and that sort of thing in the game. If we wanted to get rid of it, we could disband it, which would reduce our upkeep, which, by the way, is listed right here, so you can see how much that upkeep is. This is the attack that you'd be able to use when we get into a battle, and we'll look at those later. So first things first, we need to start exploring. And I wanted to kind of show you around the map a little bit, because even though we're dealing with sort of this shroud, right, this mist, certain things will stand out, right? You'll see oddities like this right here, right, or this here, or this, right? Whenever you see these kind of shadowy objects, that's a hint, right, that something lies in the mist, right? Some undiscovered location. And in order to discover them, you got to move closer and see. In most cases, when you see these tower-looking things here, those are watchtowers, and that's going to expand our vision range, and so it's usually good to capture those fairly early on. This is a pickup. In this case, it's a mana stash. It'll give us an instant pickup of mana if we move our scout on it, which we will do. Now, one thing to know, though, is when we move into here, this is actually... this is what's called a sort of an infestation, right? So let's move a little bit closer with our scout. Okay, and we are inside. You can see as soon as I moved in there, right? As soon as I moved in here, it gave me a little notification: an evil presence lingers in these lands. And that's because this is an infestation. And so somewhere in here, we're not sure how big this is, but if I had to guess, somewhere over here, these will grow over time. There's going to be a site in here that's producing essentially roving enemy monsters, and if you don't deal with them early on, they can become a problem later as they send out sort of attacking armies. So we'll kind of creep a little bit closer, finishing our movement, to see if we can figure out where exactly that is actually located. In terms of the map itself and resources, we can see there are a couple of resources already available to us. So pastures, and an iron deposit here, and they will increase food in this case and production in the case of an iron deposit. And so it will be beneficial for us once we are able to expand the city to capture either this province or this province to give us those bonuses. Also, we can see we have a gold mine, which is here, so this is another option in terms of capturing resources. So when it says when annexed, that means that we've acquired the province. So with Durin, first things first, we're going to pick this material up. Okay. And then we can take a look at his army, right? So we've got a halberdier unit, which is a tier 2 polearm unit. We've got 2 of those. Take a look at these guys, looking good. And then we've got a Steel Shaper, which is a support unit. So this is a caster unit. It's going to be able to cast some different spells that are really good at sort of bolstering our own troops. But they do have a sort of ranged magic attack as well. Then we got nice kind of standard, sort of dwarfy, tough infantry. Nice hammer and shield there. That's a tier 1 shield unit, good defensive unit. And this is our crossbowman, which is our sort of standard ranged unit. The one thing that's cool about these industrious culture sort of crossbowmen is this overdraw, which basically, we'll get into it in a battle what the actions do, but effectively you can take an entire full action to basically fire a much more powerful shot, which does more damage, but you wouldn't be able to move or anything. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and we'll start exploring a little bit with Durin. So we are going to start moving. Where do we want to go here? Got a nice road running down this way. Watchtower over there. Another watchtower down here. I think we might move down to this. Let's move in the direction of this watchtower. Let's see what we can see. Okay. All right. So we've moved all of our units, so we automatically get the end turn. But before we do that, I'll show you a couple other final things. So this is how you're going to cast spells. So in this case, it's on the strategic tab automatically when you cast. Click it from here because these would be spells that you can cast on the world map. If I happen to have any spells active, it would show up here. And then here is where I can read about what tactical spells I have. Now I can't use these spells until I get into a fight. And so in this case, you can just kind of read what they do for us here. But they're not usable on the world map, just in combat. This is an advice tab if you want to kind of get some tips if you're new to the game or kind of new to 4X games in general. You can go back and look at all the events that have happened if you want to see what happened if you maybe miss a prompt or something like that. You can either end turn by hitting this or by hitting this. And then the final thing I wanted to point out is the alignment down here. So we mentioned this in a couple of the previous videos, right? But this is kind of like I know I mentioned the sort of the affinities as being sort of kind of like D&D alignment. Well, that's true in that they are sort of part, just like D&D has kind of a multi-axis alignment, right? So you can be lawful or unlawful, right, on one axis and a spectrum thereof. But you can also be good or evil, right? And so this is the way the affinities work. So think of your affinities as your sort of lawful versus unlawful, right, or chaotic. And think of your alignment as your, good, neutral, evil, right? Pretty classic. And anyways, it shows what it does for you here. So it's going to give you extra relations with free cities and rulers that are neutral or better, which is good. And then random events which will occur throughout will give you a plus 10% chance to be positive, which is really good. Naturally, if you become evil through the choices that you make in the game, these events will start to maybe not be so great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end the turn. Gonna go through all the different rulers. We haven't met any yet, so we don't know what they're actually doing. And those independents, those are these infestations that I was talking about. Okay, so we're in day 2, so let's see if we can see where this infestation is. Yep, there we go. Okay, so this is actually pretty weak right now. So it actually would be really important for us to get up there with our army and take them out. So I think we'll actually turn Durin around and head that way. Sometimes these are a little strong to take on early in the game, but if you can take them on early in the game, that's highly recommended so that it doesn't create problems for you later on. So we'll start heading this way with our scout. Okay, so you'll note, so here's another creature stack right now. So in this case, he does not have a red banner like the one over here. And that's because this guy is kind of neutral, right? So he's sitting here, this army, and he's probably guarding a resource. In this case, it's pastures. In order to get access to that resource, we first would need to clear this guy off of it. All right, so he's got 2 tier units, 1 tier 1 unit. That's what these little numbers are down here. So that's probably not too bad of an army. We could probably take that with our starting army. But once we clear that off and expand to our provinces in that direction, we would then be able to gain resources from that particular resource deposit. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn Durin around, and we're going to head over here, and we're gonna take out this monster den. And once we take that out, this will go away. Because if we don't get rid of it, this red area will expand, and they'll get more aggressive over time, so that's really important. Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue our exploration here, so we will continue using the roads, since they're nice and quick, easy to move. We can prospect this province. You'll note that's an option that's popped us for us. So it's going to give us production or gold or a hero item. And so actually, I think we'll go ahead and do that. There we go. So that used the rest of our movement, but it did give us some gold in this case. Really nice mechanic for the Industrious. You can see there's other ones. It'll show you, if you have it selected, it'll actually tell you specifically which ones you can do that on, right? Okay, so let's continue moving over here. Okay, once again, we moved into the area. Yep, so it's telling us, what does it say? Nature is seldom good or evil. It is hungry, territorial, and protective of its young. Nests and dens such as these are home to various beasts of the wild, whose natural ferocity and power of tooth, claw, or beak may prove more than a match for the sharpest steel. Well, we'll see about that. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end. Okay, so our opponent's still moving, okay? They have finished moving. You'll note we've got a new icon come up here, and that is that it's telling us that we can annex our first province. So if we click on that, it's going to take us to the city, and then you can see that we can select multiple different provinces, right? So I can click on any one of these, and it will take that province that it sits above, right? Now, which one of these I click on will determine what specific province improvement I produce, and therefore what resources I'm going to produce, right? So, being that we're dwarves, you know, the natural choice I think would be to build some mines. So I think that we will do that. Also, quarries would be in sort of in keeping with that theme. So yeah, let's go with a mine. Get some. Actually, we'll do a quarry. In this case, because it's an iron quarry, an iron deposit, you'll note the difference here, right? So if I were to build a mine here, I would get plus 10 production and plus 5 gold because it's an iron deposit, right? So I'm going to get more production than I am gold because it's iron, not gold, if I build a mine there. Now, if I build a mine here, it's a gold vein, and so instead of any production, I will just get more gold. So 15 gold in this case. But I want to get that production going, so we're going to do the quarry here on the iron deposit. And so now you can see it expands our domain, and we now own this area. We have also produced a new scout. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get her moving out so she can start looking at stuff. Okay. So we've got a couple of different resources here. It's going to be a pickup here that we can get. Again, we've got these neutral armies. They're generally going to be guarding resources. Okay. So let's move over here. See, they've already increased in strength, right? So now this is why you got to get after these fairly early, right? Now, luckily, we've moved over here quickly. Here, in the sort of top left corner, when you have this army selected, you can see that there is an overall strength, right? Or that's what you're looking at here, and so it's saying that it's 210. So if you want to do a quick comparison by clicking on something, right, you can just kind of just get a general idea of what the strength of that formation is, and that's going to be based on, you know, the overall hit points and abilities and tier of these different units. Now, if I want to see how would I fare against this army, you can see I have a strength of 500. I can hold it over it, and this will pop up for us, and it's going to tell us that, hey, this is a pretty safe battle because we've got 500 strength, and they've got 210. So this is a good starter battle for us. So we'll go ahead and we'll run one battle. Now, I can auto-resolve this if I want to, but being as this is kind of an intro, we will actually fight this battle. So, here's my options. Here's the enemy army. Okay, I can do an auto combat. Or I can do a manual combat, or if I decide I don't really want to take the fight, I kind of want to back off, I can hit retreat with no penalty. It is notable, right? Why would you want to retreat? Well, an example of why you might want to retreat is that sometimes enemy stacks will have hidden units, and they will only show up once you actually go to attack the unit. Like in this case, This one showed up when we got close to it, and because of this this unit here, which has this little kind of XI up here in the top left, which tells you that it would normally be invisible on the map. But so let's go ahead and let's do a fight here, so you guys can see how that goes. Okay, so the defender's always going to move first. So we can see that they have decided to move forward a little bit. We can zoom in, take a look at their units. If we want to click on them, we can get the basics, the number of action points, that is the number of things they can do in a turn. This affects movement and also the use of skills. You can see here, in this case, it's going to take 1 action point. But if you have full action points, this little symbol here tells you that for all of the action points that you have remaining, you will actually do a separate attack. And so you can do a maximum of 3 attacks if you hadn't moved. In this case, it's a single action point, but you're not going to get any bonuses for not having extra, or for having extra action points. Unit morale over here on the left. Generally speaking, you want this to be high. If it goes low, units will begin to retreat. This is the overall health of the unit. And then you can see what its defense and its resistance are going to do. Defense, it's going to protect you against physical attacks. Resistance is going to protect you against magical attacks. It's going to reduce the damage. And you can see the calculation here in terms of how that works. Alright, so what do we got here? So this is going to be melee attack, melee attacker. It's got its charge strike, so they're going to do more damage if they move a distance before they hit. And then this is the only ranged unit that the enemy has in this case. They've got a poison needle. Camera controls are nice, so you saw that I zoomed in, but just like on the world map, if I use the Q and E keys, I can actually rotate as well, if I want to get a little bit better view of the map. Okay, so we're going to start arranging ourselves to face this fight. What we'll do is we'll take our Anvil Guard, nice defensive unit, and if you look here, this red kind of outline, it shows you how far the unit is going to be able to travel if they were to use all of their action points. So we don't want to quite get right into their range. We want to kind of try and stay a little bit further out of their range. So what we're going to do is we're going to move here, set up a defense. Bring in one of our pole arms. Now you can see we've got bolstering. So once per turn, if they get hit by a melee or physical ranged attack, they're gonna get this bolstered defense, and they will get bolstered resistance if they get hit by a magic attack. So good at taking hits. We've got another pole arm here. I'm actually going to move these guys around this way, and the idea being is I want to have them ready to go to prevent a flanking maneuver around this side here. Now I can change the facing on these units, and that's actually really important, because if you get attacked basically from any of the positions behind this, so that you can see that it's a hexagonal setup, right? So anything in the front 3, that's not a flanking attack. If you get hit here, that's a flanking attack. So facing can be very important. Okay, so we're going to move our support units in here. We'll move Durin over here. We're going to have him come around and flank along with our polearm unit. And we will move our ranged units here into position. Okay. Now, you can see down here, we got a couple options available. So we could do a defense mode, which is going to extend the zone of control, which would prevent units from moving around it. And we can, and by doing this, it would also increase our defense and resistance, make them immune to flanking, and then any adjacent units are going to get +2 resistance and +3 status resistance. So really, really nice. And this is a free ability that comes as part of being in this particular unit in the Materium culture. But you can see these are grayed out, and that's because I've already moved. So I no longer have any actions left that would allow me, in this case, there's no valid targets, right? So this is a range attack, there's nobody in range, and this would be if we wanted to heal someone. Now we can use this ability because we have one action point left, and this is going to give one of our units a bolstered defense, right? And that can stack, so you can do it multiple times, which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cast this. You can see it tells you it has a range of 4 here. That's what the little gold arrow means. I am actually I'm going to cast that on our leader, Durin. Okay, and then we'll wait. We'll let these guys move forward, and then we'll engage them. Okay, so set up our defense. Okay. All right. So they have decided to not engage, and so we are actually going to take the initiative and move forward to engage them. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to move forward to engagement range, lock these guys down. Same here. And lock these guys down. Also going to move our archers in. I'm going to move them over here. So we'll move our support unit in as well. Okay, now in this case, you note this turn that we've got some spells that are finally now available. So in this case, we've got our invulnerability spell, which will remove any negative status effects and make them invulnerable to all damage. It's a nice spell. And this one here, the bolstering chant, would actually increase our temporary hit points if we had lost some, and give us 2 stacks of that bolstered defense. Now, if you have more spells than what show up here, right, which we don't right now, but if you did, they would show up here and you could select from there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to move Durin down as well. And then we'll do a big flanking attack with him on the next turn. Okay, so first things first, we are going to go ahead and engage these guys. Let's get a ranged attack off. So you can see 90% on all these guys. So this is going to be pretty good. I think I'm probably most concerned about these guys trying to kind of flank around. So I think we're going to engage these guys. See, as you get further away with your ranged attacks, you can see that there's a line of sight issue here, and that's what that little red kind of gap in the line is showing. So not a great chance of hitting these guys. So instead, we'll focus on shooting these folks here. Okay, so we've executed some damage there, and we're going to do a little bit more here. They do retaliate back. So they've affected us. So you'll see now that we have 2 statuses. So we're pinned, means we can't move. We also have 3 stacks of bolstered defense. Okay. So what we can do here is we can force a unit to taunt, to attack us, rather than trying to kind of escape around and hit someone else. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to taunt the spider so that it doesn't flank around and hit our archers. Okay, and so it automatically activated our defense mode for us as well, so that he's bolstering these units here. And then finally, we'll do a little bit of damage to this unit here. Okay, we're going to wait. Remember, we're going to try and use the charge attack to greatest effect, so we're going to wait a turn. So we will lock him down. Not casting any spells right now because at this point, it wouldn't maximize the use of it, right? I've only lost a few hit points on a couple of these units, right? So so the 20 temporary hit points would be a bit wasted here. So we're not gonna cast that yet. We'll probably do that next turn. Okay, so he has to attack me, which is what we wanted. Now see, I've gotten a negative status effect, bleeding, on that guy, but we'll be able to remove that, which is very nice. Now, see, they've tried to move away because they're a skirmisher unit to get that ranged attack off. And we also have now have stacks of poison. Note that our pikemen there, or halberdiers, they got to attack first because they have first strike. Okay, so he's trying to mass his units on this unit. So you've noticed that I've lost a couple of folks in this unit. Now that's important because this unit originally had, I think it was 6 troops in it. And the problem is that because I now only have 4, I'm going to do less damage. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense for me to attack when I'm kind of weak like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some of our skill abilities here, right? So first things first, we're going to do bolstering chant, okay? And we are going to bolster him. Going to give us that bolster defense, and it's going to give us some health back, right? And also it removed a couple of stacks of some of the conditions that we had there. All right. So let's with these guys. Let's do a bolster and a strengthened on these guys, making them a little bit tougher. Okay. So I'm trying to do all of my support abilities first because we want to try and maximize the amount of damage that we're going to put out. So now I would automatically kill this guy, which would be good. However, that would probably be a wasted attack, because I can also kill him with Durin. Durin's a particularly powerful hero, and he's got that charge attack, and that's what we're going to execute right here. So we're going to have him come around and bop these guys in the back side with his massive warhammer. Nice, real powerful attack there from Durin, the mighty dwarven warrior, as would be expected. Now what this has done for us, which is key, it's opened up the battlefield. And this is going to allow us to swing around with this polearm unit and do some heavy damage to this unit here. And it also opens us up to allow us to re-engage on these skirmishers who tried to get away from us, which is really important. So first things first, we're going to go and we're going to engage these skirmishers. Lock them down again. So now, the next time they try and move again, we'll get another retaliation attack on them. And we're also going to bring our polearm around, and we're going to get a flanking attack. You can see it says flanking right there at the bottom of how much damage you're going to do, which is really good. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move up here, do that flanking attack. All right. Now, we haven't done any damage to this unit. So theoretically, I could just outright kill this unit. But this unit is going to do more damage to me. In this case, actually, tell you what, are we in range? Oh, we are. Perfect. So this is a great example of how to use the special abilities. So we can range this guy. And that's because he's got range 4. But I haven't moved yet. And this is really important because I've got 3 action points. This is going to allow us to use our heavy attack. And so that's what we're going to use. And you can see that it is going to give us the 70% chance to kill him outright. So let's try that. Got him. Okay? And this will then allow us to direct our attack against this guy. So we not only killed this one, but we'll do heavy damage to this guy. hadn't moved, which is why we got those 3 attacks there. Okay, so he's got pretty low morale now because we've done a lot of damage to him, and that can make their attacks weaker, cause fumbles where they either miss or do less damage. See, he's trying to get in here against our support units, but he's not going to last long and can't do much damage because he's only got 2 units left in his stack there. All right, so we will go ahead and we'll finish these guys off. We'll get them with the crossbows. Done. Right, and then we're going to be able to finish these guys off with our. Yep, looks like we'll be able to finish them off with our anvil guard, and so that's what we're going to do. Okay. So we fought our first battle. Took a little bit more damage on this guy than I would have preferred. I probably could have been a little more efficient in that battle, but really the point was just to kind of show you guys how a battle unfolds. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now this is nice because we cleared that infestation. We get some bonuses here. So we're going to get food, which will help our city grow, and this is pretty cool. This is actually an excellent reward for this particular infestation. An early infestation to give you a tier 3 mount is actually really, really good. Not only that, it's a flying mount. So it's very fast on the world map and in combat. It flies, which means that it has +2 vision range. And is not inhibited by terrain the way other units are, and it has +4 lightning resistance. This is actually a really, really cool unit. So let's take this unit, right? So we got, or it's not a unit, it's a mount, I believe, for our hero. So that was Durin. Now you'll note that I've taken damage. Now, unfortunately, it's going to take me a while to heal. And that's because when you are basically not in your own territory, what happens is it takes you longer to heal. So if I look at his health and I hover over here, it's going to tell you right here. Total health regeneration is 5. And that's because we're in wilderness terrain, which is a +5 healing modifier. So I'm only gonna heal 5 points per turn. Now, if I can get back to our home area, I will actually, that amount that will heal by each turn will actually increase quite a bit. But we don't have any movement points left, so we can't do anything else with him. But what I did want to do is we just got that cool mount. So let's take a look at that real quick. So you can see we got the green exclamation points telling us we got this this new item. And in this case, it's disabled, which is disappointing. But it's disabled because we've got a great hammer. So unfortunately, the way the game is set up now, if your character is wielding a great hammer, or a great weapon of any kind, that's to say a two-handed weapon, they cannot use mounts. So this is off limits to us. Now this isn't a total loss. It's unfortunate because we can't put it on Durin right now. However, we can change this. And that is, once we get new weapons, either from pickups or defeating enemy units, or rather infestations or heroes, and we start acquiring new equipment from exploring locations, we have the potential to switch out this weapon. And if we can give him a one-handed weapon, then all of a sudden we would be able to then use that mount, right? Which right now is grayed out for us. Or if we hire a new hero with a one-handed weapon, we would be able to give that to them. Okay. So this video's been about an hour long, and so this is give you kind of an intro of the game, and kind of showed you basically all the basics of the game. And so at this point, I'm gonna actually I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. But this isn't over. We're gonna continue this as a series, playing this in chunks, and we can then show you how you kind of progress through a session of Age of Wonders, and in this case, we'll explore whether or not Durin the Deathless, the mighty First Father of the Dwarven Kindred of the Longbeards, will be in fact able to unite the rest of the Dwarven Kindreds, or have to crush them beneath his boot, in order to make it into the second and third ages of Middle Earth. Okay, well, thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this, please hit the like and subscribe. This is really the first series of videos that I've loaded. So any feedback that anybody has, if you like the content, let me know in the comments below. If you like aspects of the content but not others, highlight that for me, and let me know what you'd like to see more of or less of. Okay, have a great day. This is Mighty Mordugal.